Hi, everyone. Happy spring. Snowing, right? I'm really excited to be here today, and I thank you all for coming. I'm so excited to get to talk about what I do because I'm really in love with what I do. So I'm a marketing researcher, but my background is actually in the humanities. And what that means is that when I was 20 years old in college studying history and literature and philosophy, I had no idea that 20 years later I'd be using all of that information to help me understand shopping. It's awesome. So one serious question that I've had pretty much since the beginning of my career is it possible for us to behave in ways that are totally unadulterated and pure and natural? In other words, is it possible for us to consume authentically? I think it's pretty obvious to most people that it's possible for us to be almost entirely inauthentic in our consumption. I love this picture. It's pretty insane when you think about it. But even people who are not thinking of themselves as being consumers find it really difficult to escape the marketplace, even when they're trying. So I'll give you just a second to estimate the dollar value of the gear in this photograph. Okay, so most people have a feeling that we're sort of divorced from our authentic selves, right? That we're supposed to be doing more and being more than we actually are. And just as a humanities-based footnote, this feeling is probably as old as civilization itself. We know that citizens of the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago felt that the barbarians were more barbaric than they were, which makes sense, but also that they were more unadulterated than they were, and that they were more pure and more virtuous than they were. Then we flash forward to 1854 to Henry David Thoreau when he moved out to Walden Pond. He did so because he said he wanted to live deep and sturdily and Spartan-like, and the famous quote, he wanted to suck the marrow out of life. So we can actually understand this in modern marketing terms by creating what's called the perceptual map. So on the vertical axis, we've got authenticity on one end and fakeness on the other end. And then that's crossed by the horizontal axis, which has commercialism on one end and non-commercial on the other end. And then we can take products and experiences that exist in the modern marketplace, and we can just put them in the map and sort of see where things shake out. For a lot of people, there's a real tension between our desire to live authentic, natural lives, which we perceive as a good thing, so it's the green check mark, contrasted with our recognition that we're entirely dependent on a marketplace that for a lot of people they see as corrupt or even corrupting. So that's the red X on this map. A really good illustration of this is the Hunger Games. Is anybody familiar with that? Before I continue. So in the evil quadrant here, we've got the capital city, right, which promotes and celebrates artifice, fakeness. And then in the virtuous quadrant, we've got our heroine, Katniss, who hunts to feed her family. And not only does she hunts with a bow. And her mother is an herbalist. And they wear natural fibers, which are, they're pretty stylish, but still. So for real people in the real world, we see this pursuit of authenticity as manifesting itself in things like barefoot running. And some people run actually barefoot, not even in thin little shoes, but entirely barefoot. Another way that we see people choosing to consume authenticity is by opting for unmedicated home birth. And not in a hospital, not in a birth center, totally at home. And if you choose to do this, Instagramming your home birth is entirely optional. So most people perceive these things as being a little too radical, a little too out there to actually choose to do for themselves, but they still want to consume in this way. And so the market responds by trying to fill in this golden quadrant here, by creating products and experiences that people can consume, that they can sell to you, to me, to us as consumers, that we'll buy. So this has been happening for a while. So as far back as like 1880s, dude ranches started appearing in the western United States. And these were real outfits, but they allowed paying consumers the opportunity to come out west and live like real cowboys and cowgirls for a while. And so these guests would actually sleep in the bunkhouses, sometimes even on the floor. And they would ride the range, and they would herd cattle, and they would live on beans and bad coffee for a week at a time, and they loved it. And dude ranches are still around today, but for some people even that's a little bit too rough around the edges, and so the market has evolved even further, and now we have glamping as an opportunity for us to consume. So for just about $700 a night, this little slice of paradise, which is right here in Montana, can be yours for as long as you want it. It's pretty funny. Another example of this is that people feel really like their wits and their skills and their strength, that they can survive using those things, that's a really powerful, positive thing. And there's a guy named Will Dean who recognized this and created the Tough Mudder race series. Any Tough Mudders in the audience? One, all right. I applaud you. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what the Tough Mudder is, it's an obstacle course race. And so people will pay hundreds of dollars in order to slither through the mud and swim through ice water and run through fields of open flame. And the names of these obstacles are things like the Bloodbath and the Death March. And my own personal favorite is the Ball Shrinker. And this one that's on the screen right now is called the electric eel because those little yellow wires that you see hanging down there into the water are live wires. I know, right? So people do this because it's fun, right? And they get a T-shirt at the end if they finish. And as many people who I've talked to who have done the Tough Mudder races like to point out to me, there's beer at the end as well. So, you know, it's a compelling thing for them to do. But a lot of people even think that this is too out there. And so for those guys, there's survivalist television. So this is really cool. There's research that shows that the human brain will release this flood of neurotransmitters that makes us think that we are achieving survival goals even when we're watching someone else do something that's exciting, like on Man vs. Wild. And get this. This effect holds true even when we're watching someone else do something that is obviously entirely fake, like playing a video game. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. So what this means is that we can feel like we're surviving, you know, like we're really conquering the modern world while we're sitting at home on the sofa and we're not even drinking our own urine. So it's a win-win for everybody. So one final evidence of this, what's called vicarious consumption in action, is that there's recent research that shows that even just the presence of a healthy option on a menu makes people, some people at least, feel like they've eaten healthier during the day than they actually have. So congratulations, you've all had your broccoli for the day. What this means, oh, sorry, I don't want to show that slide yet. What this means, though, is that this idea of authenticity, when people find ways to consume authentically, it's really a feeling of relief and pleasure for them because modern life is so complicated. And this myth of authenticity offers answers that are really simple and intuitive to questions that are quite complex and troubling for a lot of people. But we have to ask, are we doing ourselves more harm than good by encouraging this kind of consumption? Because just for example, as one ironic consequence of the minimalist running movement, people actually have more running shoes now than they ever have before. It's entirely possible for a single runner to have road shoes and trail shoes and warm weather shoes and cold weather shoes and slicks and spikes and high mileage shoes and speedwork shoes, right? So in other words, a single runner can embrace minimalism fully and still have hundreds or even thousands of dollars of shoes in their closet, which is pretty nuts. But on the other hand, you know, we look at people who are enrolling in these obviously manufactured survivalist obstacle course races, and they're setting goals for themselves, and they're exercising, they're getting off the couch, and they're eating better, and they're feeling better maybe than they have in their entire lives, and that's not a bad thing, right? So I'll just leave you with this question, because I'm way over my time. Think about your own consumption, and ask yourself, how much of it is authentic and how much of it is authentic? Thank you very much.